Hello students, welcome to MJC Learning. Today we will study English topic 4.2 To Soar with Love by Edward Braithwaite. Let's study about the author. Eustace Edward Ricardo Braithwaite, also known as E.R. Braithwaite, was a Guyanese born British American novelist, writer, teacher, and diplomat, best known for his stories of social conditions and racial discrimination against black people. He was born on 27th June 1912 in Georgetown, Guyana. He was died on 12th December 2016 in Maryland, United States. He also won the Anise Field Wolf Book Award for nonfiction. Let's peep into about the novel. To Soar with Love is an autobiographical novel. The narrator is an engineer, but to make ends meet, he accepts the job of a teacher in a rough London East End school. The school is full of troublemaker students who were rejected from other schools for their behavior. At the beginning, the narrator is ridiculed and bullied by the students, but later his calm and demeanor and desire to see them succeed gradually earn him their respect. Students, these are major and minor characters of the story. Students, let's move towards the summary of the novel. To Soar with Love is a work of fiction based on the life of the author E.R. Braithwaite. The main character E.R. Braithwaite works as an engineer in an oil refinery. He served in the Royal British Air Force in the war. After the war, being a black person, he was unable to find employment. As a last resort, he applied in a school to become a teacher. Surprisingly, he is accepted at the Green Slate School in London's East End and is set to teach the senior classes of the school. While reading the novel, we have to understand that the time period in which the story takes place is very important. Braithwaite finds that even though he considers himself British and has served in the Royal Air Force, the English do not consider him to be one of them. This leads Braithwaite to feel bitter about the English and colonialism as well as about his white students. Braithwaite's teaching position starts out roughly and is embarrassed time and again. He considers his students disrespectful, ill mannered, and mischievous, while his students consider him to be an arrogant outsider, unfamiliar with the social environment in which they have grown up. The students harass him from day one, slamming their desks during his lecture, using foul language, and bullying him to a great extent. Even the girl students do not spare a moment to harass Braithwaite. In a reaction to that, Braithwaite verbally scolds the girls for acting in an unladylike manner and being unruly in the class. While he understands that his outburst has not gained him any respect and cooperation from the students, he changes his teaching and handling tactics and he decides to interact with them as though they are adults and respectable persons. He requires every girl to be referred as Miss and that his students call him Sir. At first, the students find this level of deference ridiculous and unnecessary. However, they come around after only a few weeks, completely changing both their hygiene and their attitudes towards one another. This marks the success of Braithwaite in handling the students in a very amicable way. To increase the class cultural exposure, he takes them on field trips and excursions to museums and theaters. To everyone's surprise, many of the students have never been. A white female teacher, Gillian Blancard, accompanies the class on these excursions. This marks the beginning of a friendship between Blancard and Braithwaite. Similarly, Braithwaite's relationship with his students is tested many a times. Although his students frequently disappoint and hurt him, he learns to forgive them. The students constantly surprise him with their maturity, empathy, and knowledge. Another facet of the story which greatly affects its narrative lies is the heavy history of colonialism, its dark consequences, mental and physical trauma that increases Braithwaite's hatred and wrath for British. He constantly feels the prejudicial effects of colonialism while living in England after World War II. And these negative experiences frequently shape his thoughts and actions. Braithwaite is surprised and shocked by the conditions in which these students live, and also the physical trauma of the war that can be seen throughout his teaching environment. Students, let's move towards the theme of the novel. The theme of the novel is student teacher relationship, prejudice, and racism. E.R. Braithwaite gets a job of a teacher in a rather notorious school. He finds the students belong to the background not suitable for learning. He changes his way of teaching by including novel and creative ideas which make him win the hearts of the students in no time. The racism prevalent in the Great Britain during the mid 1940s, the time period in which To Soar with Love takes place, is of primary significance in the novel. On the outset, Braithwaite is struck by the unexpectedness of such prejudice. His experience was of no use in job interviews, where he is informed that the job has already been filled or he is overqualified for it. This heightens his sense of betrayal for the British men. As a result, he finds the children at school notorious and misbehaving, but with care and proper treatment, they may achieve their desired goals and be successful in life. Let's move towards the synopsis of the extract. In this extract, Braithwaite recounts the half yearly report of the Students' Council, in which the students of the school report to the faculty and other students on what they have been studying thus so far. Each class gives a brief report of their learning through the chosen representative. The lowest class begins first. Mr. Braithwaite's class, being the oldest, was the last one to present. Each student speaks about some specific subject. At the end, some kind of ruckus is raised by a student, but then the situation gradually resumes to normal. Now let us move towards chapter 17. To Soar with Love is a novel of 22 chapters. Here, we are going to study only chapter 17. Chapter 17 is an extract taken from the novel. It is of 4.5 pages. I have put the images of all 4.5 pages with the meaning of difficult words. So, students, if you want to read it, you can just pause the video and read it. Now, let us move further towards the explanation. The author starts with describing about one of the important day in the calendar of Green Slate School, which is the half-yearly report given by the Students' Council. Everyone was preparing for their respective roles in a business-like manner, and that was something which the author took pride in. The author was really feeling proud looking at all this. There was no assembly held on that day. The children were dressed in a smart and sophisticated way. All the children who were the speakers were dressed in a very well mannered way. Miss Joseph and Denham were the important officials who were allotted the responsibility to ensure whether everyone was doing his her part properly. The bell rang sharp at 10 a.m. and everyone trooped, which means moved into the auditorium in large numbers. Miss Joseph and Denham, who were the senior most students, sat one on either side of Mr. Florian. After ensuring that everyone was seated, Mr. Florian addressed the school. He spoke about the aims and policies of the school and how the children can help to achieve them. He praised the children whenever needed, but also reminded that there still is a long, long way to go before we achieve those goals. Listening to the man, the author realized that Mr. Florian, who was giving a speech, was still related to his school. Afterwards, he wished them success and left with everyone applauding. Mr. Joseph then stood up and gave a brief explanation about the Students' Council's purpose. The students would come from lower classes to the higher ones. Each class had its own representative, which would report about the progress made during the half semester, which began after Easter. Then the teachers would answer to any doubts or queries put up by the students. The lower class students were afraid and shy as they were only 12 years, but then too they managed very well. As the classes progressed, the way of presentations got better and better. The main agenda was what they had learned rather than what they were expected to learn. Then came the turn of the senior-most class, which was the narrator's class. He sat up anxiously to look. Denham read out the name of the representatives: Potter Arithmetic, Sapiano Nature Study, Miss Peg and Jackson Geography, Miss Dare and Furman Physiography, Miss Dodd History, Denham PT and Games, Miss Joseph for Domestic Science. The narrator was pleased when the ladies were addressed as Miss and was sure that this would be something for the juniors to learn. As their names were called, they stood up and, in a civilized manner, took their respective seats. Miss Joseph spoke about the brotherhood of mankind. They learned through various subjects and how humans are interdependent on each other, irrespective of the race, creed, gender, geographical location, etc. She then called Potter to speak. Potter spoke about the work done on weights and measurements, the relationship between the kilogram and pound, the meter and foot. He said that either of the two methods were used throughout the world for understanding between different nations, communities, and ethnic groups of people. Next came Sapiano, and he spoke about how different things were made, how the countries pooled their knowledge about the breeding habits and migration of these pets. Miss Peg and Jackson divided their report, whilst Jackson spoke first about mineral deposits and the dependency of even a rich country. Miss Peck spoke about human relationships and the post World War problems of feeding, clothing, shelter, etc. Furman quite surprised everyone when he made a signal, and Welsh and Allison appeared with a skeleton between them. The school laughed, and Furman began speaking in a clear and dramatic voice. He informed that the skeleton was a female one and that he was unable to say whether she was a Chinese, French, German, or a Greek, and also if she was brown or white or a mixture of both. The bottom line was that we all are the same. Ms. Dare spoke about the problems which humanity faces regarding sickness and disease and the advantages of sharing knowledge, advice, and providing assistance. Miss Dodd told us about the period of history the class studied, the Reformation in England. She went into depth about the struggles of men and how they try to understand the different cultures in order to eradicate the problems. Denham's report was a shocking one. He used criticism for the pattern of PT and games, emphasizing about how less space affected their outdoor play. He went on to say that PT was pointless and same every day, and an actual game would have been far, far better. To this, the boys cheered loudly, showing agreement, means all the boys laughed loudly, showing that they all agree to this point. After the reporting was done with, Denham called two children and asked them to write the name of any two teachers, including the head, on a slip of paper. The slips were put in a hat and shuffled, and then were removed one after the another. The names that came out were Mr. Weston, Mrs. Dale, Miss Phillips. Denham and Miss Joseph led the students off the stage, and the teachers took their seats. The questioning began now. The narrator says that it was a rather unforgettable experience. The questions were mostly asked by the two top classes, as the young ones were either too naive or too timid, means the young ones were very nervous. The teachers were fumbling a lot, and the most calm one, surprisingly for the narrator, was Miss Phillips. She answered the questions honestly and would also save her fellow teachers from getting embarrassed. Means the feeling of awkwardness, means the feeling of uneasiness, as other fellow teachers could not answer the questions. Miss Phillips was able to answer all kinds of questions. She saved her fellow teachers from getting embarrassed. Weston behaved ridiculously when opposed to Denham's blunt criticism and Furman's skillful and clever way of asking questions. He was completely surprised and got confused as to how should he answer. He could not assure that the PT was any good. Denham, being a trained boxer, was quite sure that these exercises were next to no good and would only help if practiced daily. He also stated that PT only twice a week was a waste of time. To this, Miss Phillips replied that the school tries to provide the children with each and everything in their best possible way. Though the PT exercises prove to be useless to some boys, it might make a great deal of difference to other less healthy students. She also said that it is beyond anyone's power to please everybody. Moreover, she suggests that the older boys who deem themselves fit could help the ones who barely are. These remarks still could not help satisfy Denham's anger, and he reverts by asking that why do the fitter boys have to do it then again? Why don't they take only the kids who need it and the other students could play some better sports like football, volleyball, rather than doing something which is of no good? This got quite hard to reply to. But Miss Phillips, as always, came up with a witty answer. She always has clever answers. She said that we could take it up as a training for the mind as it is of the body. She continued by saying that everything taught in the school is supposed to help the kids live their life in a better way. This PTA lecture could be taken up as a training of doing what we are told, though we may not have any liking for it. That shut Denham up, and Miss Phillips smiled. The narrator is left surprised by Miss Phillips' calm way of handling the situation. The morning ended, and the heads stands up to appreciate the efforts of all the students. Thank you, students.